On a recent business trip, I did my usual ritual of hitting all the local video game stores within a half-hour radius. I saw a copy of World of Horror on the Switch in one of the many game stores I stopped at. When the game was first announced, I was interested in it. The 1-bit color scheme reminded me of an old Apple or Game Boy game and was also from the same publisher that released Valhalla. Even though I had a few run-ins with the game online, I never looked too deeply into it. I decided to take a chance on it and pick up the game. After spending over 20 hours playing it, I regret not getting a copy of the game sooner. So, let's dive into why I'm so impressed with World of Horror. While I'm a fan of many horror subgenres, I enjoy particular aspects over others. I tend to prefer the paranormal elements of horror games like Silent Hill and Fatal Frame over the biological terror of Resident Evil. A horror game will instantly skyrocket on my list if it has anything to do with H.P. Lovecraft and Elder God related monsters. That's precisely why I'm such a big fan of the original Alone in the Dark. World of Horror takes your traditional spooky Japanese ghost stories and throws them into a blender with an H.P. Lovecraft-style mythos for an absolute tour de force supernatural game adventure. In the Japanese city of Shiokawa, members of an evil cult gather to commence the summoning of one of the old gods, which will spell certain doom for the entire earth upon their return. As the chosen old god begins to awaken, the city starts to exhibit strange happenings, such as the appearance of ghosts, people disappearing, and bizarre events that strangely, not everyone in the city is collectively seeing. As the player, you'll select one of the various characters with different stats and a backstory about why they're attempting to solve the mystery of weird occurrences in the city. You heard me mention stats, and that's because this adventure game uses RPG elements like skills, experience points, and levels to influence how your character responds to combat scenarios, succeeds when searching for clues, or navigates a hazardous event. For example, if you have a high knowledge stat, you can tap into a mysterious stone you'll randomly encounter and harness its power to restore your stamina or reason. If that stat is too low, that same stone may sap the life out of you or curse you, leaving an ongoing negative impact on your character for the rest of the game. Each character you pick in the game has particular positive and negative traits to specific stats, so keep that in mind if you're more of a fighter versus a run and live to see another day kind of player. Now that you've picked your character, it's up to you to decide what old god you're attempting to keep from causing the end of the world. If you select Gaizo, for example, this evil entity can use mirrors to find ways of driving you insane. These mirrors can appear as random events, and each time that they happen, it'll affect your reason stat. If your reason stat hits 0, you go insane and find yourself locked inside a mental institution while the world basically waits to be destroyed. Each old god also has a specific impact on the stat or game mechanic depending on what's chosen. Goizo's trait will increase the doom meter penalty each time the player rests at their apartment. Doom can basically be considered time in this game, and the doom meter will increase for each action you perform. Sometimes, random actions that raise or lower doom can occur, but they constantly keep you on edge to make you think about your actions wisely. Once the doom meter hits 100%, the old god has fully revived and has arrived on Earth. As you can imagine, that means game over. With all the pre-game activities completed, we officially enter the city to start the game. Our objective to get to the root of the strange happenings in the town is to investigate 4 random mysteries. While each mystery has a distinct storyline, the player will eventually discover that these mysteries are all interconnected to the coming of the old god. The game starts with a particular set of random mysteries and eventually expands to newer ones as you finish the game multiple times. Also, each mystery has various endings, so playthroughs of the same mystery have a good amount of replay value. This seems complex and daunting to first-time players, but keeping at it makes the game's progression natural and increasingly fun. If you manage to solve the first 4 mysteries in a run, you'll be challenged to tackle the fifth and final mystery, which involves the lighthouse in town and a challenging climb to discover what waits on top of it. There are so many of these mysteries in this game that I enjoy playing that it's hard to pick just one. But let's talk about the eerie episode of Evolving Eels. In this particular adventure, your friend, Kana, thinks your neighbor is doing strange experiments with eels. Kana has seen him carry jars of eels in and out of the apartment, but what could he be doing with them? As you can imagine, things get more bizarre as the story progresses. The eel-entrusted neighbor vanishes, so the player and Kana investigate his office and find one of the strange eels there. Of course, Kana isn't so bright, and he decides that he's going to keep one of the eel samples to try to figure out what's so special about them. How does this all end? Well, things come to a head after Kana vanishes, and you investigate the apartment of the strange eel-collecting neighbor. To your horror, the apartment has jars and eels all over it. Something disgustingly gross is in the bathroom, and your friend Kana? Well, let's just say the whole scenario is an eye-opening experience for him. However, all or none of this can happen depending on how you play each story. It is incredible how much this game has going for it. The art is fantastic, the chiptune soundtrack is both catchy and creepy, and the randomness of encounters and other situations keeps you on edge as to whether your character will survive the playthrough. At this point, I've finished about 7 runs through the game, and I'm still encountering new enemies, events, and even new mysteries. Each successful playthrough runs about 30 minutes, making this game easy to pick up and play, which I can appreciate these days with my busy schedule. If I have any regret about picking up this game, it's that I picked it up on the Nintendo Switch. The game's PC version mod community is supposedly very vast, offering many new stories, custom characters, and even events. Some new features are not available on the Switch version, and from what I understand, the developer is having a hard time getting QA approvals for the new content that he wants to bring to the Switch version of the game. That's Nintendo for you though. So, if you have the choice, buy the PC version. I'll likely rebuy it on PC when it goes on sale, but I do have to admit, it's nice to have a physical copy of the game. World of Horror is undoubtedly worth checking out. If you still need convincing, a demo is available to get a great taste of the gameplay. While the trailer for the game was great, it didn't do the actual gameplay justice. If you're a fan of horror-based adventure games like Shadowgate, or any game in the MacVenture series with a sweet twist to it, you'll dig this game. It's definitely more than just a visual novel. Dig in, get freaked out, and have fun.